This is WFYI News Now. It's April 17th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, a survey in Indy that hopes to pinpoint dangerous areas for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. The ACLU of Indiana sues the Trump administration for revoking visas of 7 international students. And we have a feature story on Indianapolis parents who say the political fights over school choice miss out on what matters most.
I think if you take away a person's choice, then you keep them in a box and they don't have any options.
Those stories coming up. But first, Indiana's major property tax reform package is now law, as Governor Mike Braun signed the measure Tuesday. In a statement on social media, Braun called the legislation historic tax relief that benefits nearly every Hoosier. Beginning next year, the bill creates a new property tax credit of 10% of a homeowner's bill, up to $300. It adds additional credits for older Hoosiers and veterans. It eventually exempts most businesses from the business personal property tax, a tax on equipment, and it slightly changes how farmland is assessed to help bring down farmers' property taxes. But in a statement, Democratic Representative Greg Porter says all that will cost local governments and schools up to $1.8 billion in funding over just the next 3 years. To help balance that, the measure gives locals new income tax tools, and that prompts Porter to call the bill a lose-lose that tries to shift the blame for taxes to local communities. Indianapolis residents are being asked to help shape priorities for the city's Vision Zero initiative. WFYI's Samantha Horton reports a survey aims to pinpoint dangerous areas for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers.
Health by Design is partnering with the city to document how people are traveling in Indianapolis and issues that they might be experiencing. Responses will be compiled to create an action plan for Vision Zero, an initiative the city created last year to reduce traffic-related injuries and deaths. People can share their input through an online survey and map, as well as at community in-person events. Taylor Firestein is a walk and bike program coordinator with Health by Design. At a recent community pop-up event at Riverside Park, he says the group is trying to meet people where they are.
We really just want to hear from the residents of Indianapolis who are really their own experts of their own neighborhoods. So they're going to know, right away what the issues are.
Firestein says more community events are planned and public comment will be accepted through the end of April. I'm Samantha Horton.
The ACLU of Indiana sued the Trump administration on Tuesday for revoking visas of 7 international students studying at universities in Indiana. WFYI's Zach Castle reports.
The lawsuit alleges that the Trump administration violated the Fifth Amendment due process rights of the international students when it canceled their student visas. The students study at Purdue, Notre Dame, and Indiana University, Indianapolis. They're citizens of China and Nigeria. The lawsuit asks the court to reinstate the students' visas and issue a temporary restraining order to prevent them from being detained. Almost 1,200 students at more than 180 schools across the country have recently lost visas, according to the news site Inside Higher Ed. ACLU chapters in Michigan, Montana, and New Hampshire have also filed lawsuits contesting the visa revocations. I'm Zach Castle.
2 of the students are on track to graduate in May. All plaintiffs are in good standing with their schools, according to the ACLU of Indiana. And for our final story today. In Indianapolis, 2 moms find themselves on opposite sides of a growing debate over public education. Their stories highlight the tensions over school choice, funding, and access, and the very different versions for how to serve students of color and low-income families. From WFYI's Education Desk, Sydney Dauphiné has more.
On the city's Near East Side, the school day ended at Paramount Brookside Charter School. 6th grader LeBron is getting picked up. His mom, Latoya Tahiru, greets him in the car.
So then the teacher, LeBron, this is Miss Sydney.
Hello.
This is LeBron Tahiru.
Hi.
Paramount 6th grader.
Yep.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Put your seatbelt on, your switches back.
LeBron's mom, Latoya Tahiru, has all 3 of her children enrolled or graduated from charter schools. She says Paramount's approach unlocked a love of learning for her 2 youngest.
One of the things in schools, by 3rd grade, if a child is not reading proficiently, they're saying they're making a jail cell for them. So for me to know that my son, a young black boy who comes from the hood, loves reading and loves learning, like as a mom, it makes my heart turn and spin.
Tahiru's oldest child, who has since graduated, struggled to learn how to read. They moved from school to try and find a place to meet her daughter's needs and get her back on track.
I think if you take away a person's choice, then you keep them in a box and they don't have any options. And I think it's always good to have freedom of choice.
She's become vocal about this issue and began working in 2017 with the local office of Stand for Children, a national education reform advocacy group.
I have to push for not just my kids, but kids who come from communities like all the ones that I have lived in, just the cycles of everything that I went through. No child should have to go through that.
Tahiru wants all types of public schools in Indianapolis to be funded equally, and she wants schools to adopt teaching practices that are proven to help students of color. Here she is last summer advocating for that at an IPS meeting.
When I speak, it's my words, it's my experience, it's my story. My youngest 2 go to Paramount Brookside.
Tahiru was responding to another mom at the meeting that said Paramount parents only advocate for the school because they're paid to.
They're not perfect. No school, by the way, is perfect, but they are doing a great job. So please stop saying that we're paid and we...
But Stand for Children has multiple times paid people.
That other mom attends the same meetings, but she has a different stance.
Christina Smith.
These organizations that claim to be dedicated to poor kids like mine, black and brown kids seeking better educational outcomes, are fighting against fully funded, fully public schools for all.
Smith is well known for advocating and arguing for traditional public schools online and at public meetings. She began speaking out after one of her children tested into a high-ability magnet school in IPS, but could not get in because there wasn't enough room.
So I talked to my school board member, who was a neighbor, and I kind of pitched a little fit about it.
The school added another classroom so it could let more children in. That was her start as a traditional public school advocate. And her advocacy grew when the traditional school her other child went to, Cold Spring School, became an innovation school. It's still part of IPS, but now run by an independent nonprofit.
So I started to question, why would we do this? Why would we become an independent organization?
The shift was part of a larger IPS strategy to give school principals greater independence from district control and more flexibility to manage their budgets. The district now has around 30 of these charter and innovation school partnerships, and they're now a focal point of the debate about how to share resources. Smith researched how the idea for IPS to work with charter schools gained traction.
Because I was really worried about, why are we handing over a public school system, a public school, to a charter school?
She didn't like what she found. Advocates of innovation in charter schools in Indianapolis have out-of-state funders like billionaire and former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg. Smith says she isn't against charter or innovation schools themselves, but she sees a dual system, unable to financially support the district and these types of schools.
We automatically create this competition that doesn't need to be there. So, in an ideal world, all of our schools would be fully funded and it would be fully public, right? And we wouldn't have to have this, market-based system.
But here's the twist. Smith's children attend a charter school, just like Latoya Tahiru.
I am a charter school parent. We made that choice, right? How could I hate myself, right? Do I want choices? Well, we've participated in choice every single time, every step of the way. So how could I not want choices for other people?
On that point, Smith and Tahiru agree.
I believe choice is a critical thing too, because what works for me may not work for my next door neighbor.
These 2 Indianapolis moms stand on opposite sides of a charged public debate. But behind it, each is driven by the same goal, doing what they believe is best for all children. I'm Sydney Daudelin.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.